And a warm welcome back to the Ref Show with Keith and Mark. Let's kick on now to the Women's World Cup, which we've much enjoyed, coverage from Canada, and also thrilled that England's women finished the tournament in a blaze of glory with that bronze medal. So well done to Mark Sampson and the players. A first ever win for the women against Germany. Epic, that.
It's great, isn't it? Isn't it great to beat the Germans? Get in there.
And anything, really.
anything, because they always get one over on us, don't they? Whatever it is, and whenever we play them, they always get one over on us.
We beat them with a penalty,
and it's great to see.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah,
but I think I think the ladies have done really well. I hope that this will be the catalyst in this country to accelerate the women's game at junior level. Because I think that they've struggled over years. The FA, in fairness to them, have been positive by setting up the professional league. And I think we just want to see the Super League gain momentum. And that will draw young women referees into the game.
Pay them, make them professional. Is that viable?
but I think it is. But it'd be good to see the likes of Man United, because they've not got a ladies' team. It'd be great. I mean, Man City have. I mean, they've got a great little team.
Yes.
But I think it'd be really good to see the really big clubs, bringing in.
Arsenal haven't they, for one?
I'm very surprised Man United haven't. But as I said, going on to the ladies, it was some of the crowds. It was fantastic to see some of the attendances in the World Cup. It's fantastic.
And I know that, Keith, because you've done a blog on the subject, you're pretty impressed overall with the lift in standard of women's officiating. The North Korean official for the England-Germany game seemed to get a few calls wrong in terms of corners and goal kicks, but
it's all about, this day and age, it's all about getting the big decisions correct. Yeah. Now, if she gets the penalty wrong, then you go back and you look at the goal kick, the small things, the goal kicks, the corners, the little things, the throws. But because you get the big decision right, no one worries about cares about those little decisions.
And this was handling a holding offence in the area.
Spot on. I think it sets the mark, doesn't it? Because listening to some of the commentary, you know that they're not accepting or expecting a penalty kick in some instances because they've seen the English game and players getting away with it. The referees have applied the law, and I think with that they earn great credit.
And she was well placed to give it as well.
Well, I mean, when you actually look at some of these referees, there's Busaka in the background, clearly having done a terrific job at the last World Cup with the organisation of the refereeing. His influence has come to bear, and these referees are fit. I mean, ignore the first rounds and early rounds, because I think there were too many teams in the competition. But when we've got into the major games, the big games, there's been some massively impressive performances. I mean, Anne-Marie Keighley, who we've mentioned on a number of times, from New Zealand, I mean, her movement was just phenomenal. These are big pitches, the hot temperature, and she breezed through the game.
There's been much to admire as well, I think, in the way that the women, the spirit of the game, the women have conducted it. Not everything, there have been one or two sort of elbows, but it's ironic, you get a penalty for grappling or holding. The absence of it, though, at corners and free kicks, that's been refreshing to see. Yeah. They just don't do it, do they?
I think that's what's made the games enjoyable. There's players not dissenting decisions. No. They might have a look, and they might be seen to be slightly disagreeing, but nonetheless, I suppose what will happen is people will say, well, it's not the professional game, and by the way, there isn't that intensity. The reality is these women show great intensity, and the referees great professionalism. And I think having seen this World Cup, I do think, ignoring even the success of the England team, I do think now there's a step change. There will be a step change, because there are other youngsters who want to emulate the players that they see. There'll be referees who want to emulate. And I'll tell you this, the English FA have got to get into gear with this. They've got to get into gear with the refereeing bit, because we have not got enough women referees coming through. We've not had a referee on the Premier League yet in terms of the referee in the middle. We've not had one in the Football League. And you have to say to yourself, why not? And if we say, well, it's because of the system or they're not there, then it's up to the FA to get out and promote the game and get women involved.
Catch the wave.
Yeah, I just think there's most probably yeah, if they're good enough, then yes, they should reach the heights. But I just think perhaps we've got a little physical issue there with the fitness with ladies.
Well, I take the point, because I sort of said, and I took upon what David Hurst said, and I think it was a real professional observation from him, and that is maybe we should make the field a bit smaller, and that would help that physicality. And I think he's spot on. You know, the reality is that there are some times when the pass is going astray because there isn't the strength there. So let us just accommodate that. We know that in Football League games and Premier League games, there's pitches of all different shapes and sizes. The reality is the laws accommodate that. The current laws accommodate for the side of the field to be reduced.
It's a great point, and amplified again there by Keith. We only had one representative, I think it was Natalie Aspinall, in terms of referee at the tournament, so also amplifying your comments about kicking on. The final itself, great game, USA winning 5-2 against Japan. Kateryna Monzul came out with great credit.
Yeah, I mean, once again, it's about managing the occasion, managing the event, and managing the players.
Well, I mean, the score was, in a sense, 4-0 up to about the 15th, 16th minute. I mean, the goal from the halfway line, scored by the American, was absolutely incredible. But we didn't see the referee. But she was there. You know, if with an eagle eye you're looking at her, her positioning was superb. These referees have allowed the game to flow. And the players themselves have accepted that there's going to be advantages played when appropriate. Great thing for the game.
And that comes with decision-making, accuracy of decision-making, and recognition of foul, non-foul. All that adds to the referee having a terrific game and getting the respect from the players.
And adds to the enjoyment of the game.
Let me tell you, you then look back at the Premier League last season, right? Yeah. And you say to yourself, making referees professional, was that the right decision? That's a big question, because the reality is, in making them professional, and I was there in the early stages, it was to make a difference. There's only a few referees that have delivered that difference.
Yeah. It's interesting you should say that as well. Sorry, just going off that. When we had boot camp a week before the season started, or 2 or 3 weeks before the season started, we had a week away. And do you know what they're doing this season? I think it's a day and a half or 2 days at St George's. Now they're professional. I think a lot of them spend more time on the golf course than what they do practicing their football.
Great point here, Alan, on that, if I may. And that was, I can remember taking the guys to boot camp in...
Remember Cornwall? Jesus.
Well, yeah. And they really got slugged by the army.
Oh, we did, yeah. Older shot. Oh,
so I think those things are part of...
That's another story. We'll come back to that.
But you look at what teams they go away. They take their players away. How long do they go away for? I mean, 2 days.
That's interesting. Juan Guzman, referee in America, MLS. He's only being mentioned because we had a tweet from Carlton Palmer, who'd watched a game that Juan Guzman had refereed, a New York Rangers game in MLS, and said that Keith Hackett wouldn't be impressed with his physique.
He's absolutely spot on.
Is he?
He's like Dowd. You know, only he doesn't move anywhere near as much as Phil Dowd. So you can guess that I think at the end of the day...
Sorry, I must correct. It was Brian Dean with that tweet. Mustn't get Carlton into any more trouble than he's already in. That tweet was from Brian Dean.
He's in Portugal, and he can't.
I mean, Brian's right. I think it's so important that in professional sport that the referees look physically prepared to officiate the game.
It's the game's changed now. The game's changed.
So just finally mention a stalwart of football, local football in South Yorkshire as it happens, but he has represented so many people across the country who don't get the recognition they deserve. So very sadly, somebody well known to both Keith and myself, Brian Bradley, known to everybody, particularly in the grassroots game, across South Yorkshire, had died along with his wife Judith in a car crash. Very sad. A few days ago, and not a single bad word, I think, has ever been said about Brian.
Well, you know, there are people who have influenced my career, and Brian was one. I can remember going to that first meeting of the Referees Association, Grand Hotel in Sheffield, and met with a former Football League official, Brian Baker, funnily enough, and Brian. And Brian Bradley was the guy who supported me through thick and thin with sensible advice. He's done that for lots of of referees. Here was a guy who was a referee and a good one, but he had that link and he brought football clubs together, communicated about them. And the last time I saw him was a few weeks ago out at Penistone at a final, Sheffield and Hallamshire Cup final, and with his wife, they were together a lot, Judith, and he was complimentary of the referee. I'd never heard a bad word about him said about a referee.
He wouldn't say a bad word about
Just
people.
incredible.
And people didn't say a bad
Absolutely
word about
incredible.
him. So we all join together in passing our sincere condolences and our respect to the family of Brian and Judith Bradley. Okay, guys, thanks ever so much. Join us again for another Ref Show next week. Bye. See you.